Hello there, welcome to Overgrove episode 5. Apologies for the last 2 weeks. Boss was busy the 1 week and then I was busy the next week, so we weren't able to do any episodes for the previous 2 weeks, but don't worry, we're back now and we should continue the weekly schedule unless another one of us gets occupied some other way again, but hopefully not too much. This week, we talk about an interview with Edge magazine that Aaron Keller and Jeff Kaplan talked to them about Overwatch 2. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
How are you, Mr. Treeboy?
I'm doing well today, yeah. Christmas is only a few days away now.
That is true. You are absolutely correct. Today, I believe, is the 20th. So that's pretty cool. Overgrove episode 5, the Edge magazine interview for Overwatch 2. Excited I am each time we get to discuss Overwatch 2 and all the wonderful things that they were discussing in the interview. It seems like they're so excited about the characters and telling the stories of these heroes that we've been playing since 2016.
That's their main focus for Overwatch 2, the story. Overwatch 1 is all about introducing the world and the gameplay. And Overwatch 2 is where they're going to expand on the story and really explore what the world of Overwatch is and what each of the heroes do in the world and their reactions to everything that's going on. So the story is something they really wanted to focus on from the beginning because they recognized they'd made a really interesting world and they wanted to explore it. But Overwatch 1 wasn't the place to do that. Outside of it, the comics, the shorts, they did it that way, but that's really a drop in the ocean of what they wanted to accomplish with Overwatch 2. So with Overwatch 2, they can really start to explore that with the story mode.
The release of Overwatch was just the opening of here it is, this is Overwatch. And during the interview, they mentioned things like Marvel, they mentioned DC, they mentioned comics and characters, and they even mentioned Disney and Pixar. And their drive to take these characters and to make you attach to them and make you love them. They bring up the diversity and the design of them in the beginning of the interview. They discuss how they truly enjoy the idea that when you look at this roster of heroes, you can find somebody who represents you. You see somebody who maybe looks like you, or maybe their character, their personality is something similar that you can attach yourself to and enjoy.
Yeah, indeed. There's aspects of every hero that people can identify with and really get into who they are as a person in the story and how they interact with the world. And it's definitely something I'm looking forward to finding out more about all the heroes, really, and the technology that they're creating for Overwatch 2 is all about telling the story better. One example they give in the magazine is that they are increasing the movement range of the faces, right? They're trying to make the faces much more expressive to show much more emotion so they can interact with the story in a much more visible, emotional way rather than just through dialogue or actions. So they're thinking about all these different things, not just in the characters themselves, but the environments. They're using not just what happens, but the color of the environments as you go through the story missions is being used to set the moods. They gave the example of the Rio de Janeiro map that they demoed at BlizzCon, which has, I think they say, 5 different colored zones throughout the mission, which help set the mood for what's happening in the story. So they're not discounting any aspect of possible ways of telling the story. They're using everything they have to make the story experience great.
Yep. And they are incredibly excited. The producer, she mentioned that the geometry of the face, and I believe Kaplan also mentioned this as well, is that the team is really excited to be able to use the in-game system to tell a story that they would like to tell. That up to this point, that it had been the cinematics team, but now the actual team themselves will be able to take their characters and their expressions through geometry and the eyes and expressions to tell the emotional story. And I haven't seen the cinematic, but apparently there's a cinematic in the game where something may or may not happen to Lucio, and May is there to witness it. And they specifically talk about her emotion, the wobble of her chin, or the expression in her eyes, the emotion that is conveyed. It is absolutely amazing. The other part of it was they were talking about the progression of the design of the characters. They want to tell the story where a character that we've known for a while, when they redesign the characters, you're going to be able to know that's your character. It's still going to represent who you've been playing since 2016, but his or her armor, the color, the changes is going to show you that time has progressed. And one of the examples that was given was Reinhardt. Reinhardt's original design had a 08 on his shoulder, and now we've moved forward into Overwatch 2, and he has a 09 on his shoulder, and it's been redesigned to the story by Brigitte. She has redesigned and upgraded his armor, so they're taking this design system, and it's just not a shiny coat of paint or a new gloss, as it were. They're telling the story, and that's what they're excited to do.
It's not just about story, though. Blizzard are well aware that it's a game, and it needs to be developed gameplay first. They do want to tell a great story, but not at the expense of the gameplay. It needs to be fun first and foremost. They won't take the story in any directions where it just won't be fun to play through, because that defeats the point of it being a game. If they want to tell just a story, they can do that, because Jeff is interested in expanding Overwatch beyond the video game universe, maybe TV shows or movies. He's open to that possibility in the future, which is exciting in itself. But they definitely do want to put gameplay first before story, but they still do want to tell an epic story. So it's tying those two together that they're working really hard on to make sure both the gameplay and the story are top-notch.
And they are introducing the new mode Push, but they also mentioned that they are adding new maps to the existing game modes, and they are very much well aware of what Overwatch is, because I think this also falls back to that original announcement of Overwatch 2 when everybody was like, what is this? They're still trying to explain a little bit exactly what they're going to be doing, because they're still adding new maps, plus the visual overhaul to everything. They're well aware of what we want, it seems. And of course, you've got to introduce new things as well. By Jeff Kaplan's admission, he sees this Overwatch 2 as a true sequel to Overwatch.
The amount of content they're adding is gigantic. I think to a certain extent they undersold it at BlizzCon, potentially because they weren't quite sure of the complete scale, or maybe they didn't feel like they needed to emphasize it as much as they have in the past month or two, right? Because they had in their head exactly what they were going to do, but they didn't quite express that to the extent that they needed to convince us that it was worthy of a sequel and not just an expansion or a DLC.
But they're definitely making new maps for existing game modes, which is exciting, because there are some maps for current game modes that competitive players don't actually like, and that is one of the reasons they've introduced this rotating map system in each season, where they pull some maps out and they're going to replace them next season with the ones they've taken out, back and forth. So that's exciting.
It's exciting stuff. And it's not only new maps, it's new heroes, right?
Right.
Jeff has told us multiple times there's going to be multiple new heroes coming out with the game, and to the point where it's going to seriously shake up the meta of the whole game, right? It's not just going to be a single hero, it's going to be a lot of them. They haven't told us exactly how many we're getting. I'd say probably between 4 and 6, maybe more at a guess, right? But it's going to be a good chunk of heroes, and it's going to really shake things up. So we get a big shift in how people are playing, and the meta might take a while to stabilize, especially since we'll get a lot new heroes.
One of the comments that was in the interview was He really wants chaos. The word chaos was used multiple times, and he used the reference of when Diva and Genji and I believe Mei was introduced to the beta. He said that created chaos because you had a Diva that could eat ultimates and eat incoming projectiles. Genji, which makes absolutely no sense. He's a ninja in a world of everything. And you have Mei, one of the most evil characters, with one of the most adorable. She's absolutely adorable. They love her character, but they can't stand when people play her. He said that created chaos when that was introduced to the beta, and that's what he wants with the new heroes. So when they introduce new heroes, they want it to completely change the meta. They want things to be in this randomness in the game.
Speaking of heroes, in the interview they were talking about how they come up with ideas for new heroes, and it was interesting to learn that they get the whole team involved just to throw ideas at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep.
They mentioned at one point someone even came up with a pizza hero, a hero that was just literally a pizza. So they come up with all kinds of crazy ideas. And one of the crazy ideas that actually worked was Wrecking Ball.
Which, when they introduced Wrecking Ball, it was like, what? Really? That's going to be a hero?
Yeah. And I was surprised too when we learnt that Wrecking Ball was not a monkey, not any form of primate at all, but was in fact a hamster. And it was quite confusing and weird. But he's been in the game for, over a year now, and we're just used to him just rolling around all over the place. So.
And it just, even today, I stop and think about Wrecking Ball. He is a tank. He is in a ball. His whole point is to knock you around, slam, and roll away. But they in the interview they talked about how he'll get everybody together, and you just throw stuff out. And you even in the ideas you create a thumbnail of what this character would be. And he specifically said that some of these ideas, that's how you come up with ideas. You just have people throw out stuff. And it sounds ridiculous, but if you take a little bit of A and a little bit of B and you combine them, that could actually work out to be a great character. Baptiste is another character. When that character was introduced and they talked about how he had an immortality field that he would throw out that would keep you alive, my brain was like, that doesn't fit into Overwatch. That doesn't fit at all. And now it's just there and you rely on it. And you kind of like, what would you do without it right now?
Yeah, it's one of those things where these new mechanics come along and you're like, wait, what? That sounds overpowered. How does that even work? How's it balanced? But then a few months later, you're used to it and it's just a normal part of Overwatch. So it'll be interesting to see what new mechanics come out with all these new heroes are going to dump on us all at once. And it's going to be utter mayhem, but it'll be great fun.
A lot of this interview is about the characters and the character designs, and they were talking about the lore behind the characters and creating the stories, and about how people complained about, there's not enough story being told about these characters and they're so awesome. And the response is that the community, the people who play this game, in their mind, they have all this amazing story and this characters and the voice that they've already told themselves. It cannot be easy to design characters and the new designs, and you have all these people playing the game and they have what's going on in their mind about this character. It can't be easy at all.
I know. No, it's very tricky to get things right. But in the end, Blizzard have a plan for every hero. They have a plan for the story. And so in the end, even if they do things that the community might not like somewhere in the story, later down the line, it's going to pay off and they're going to understand why they made those decisions. A lot of the time, people will have an idea of where they want the character to go, what they want to do, but in the end, it's probably not going to be as good as what Blizzard come up with, because they've got a much grander design for the entire story.
Now, this point here, role queue may be improved on or before Overwatch 2 comes out.
Blizzard have said that if they have ideas to improve any of the mechanics in Overwatch 1 that they can implement fairly quickly, they'll do so. They won't wait for Overwatch 2 to come out. So if they have some bright ideas about how to improve the role queue, for example, and it's easy enough to put into the game, then they'll do it, because Overwatch 2 is the next game and we still have a current game, so they can improve the lives of the Overwatch players now and not have to wait. So it's good that they're still thinking of adding stuff to Overwatch 1 if they can, to keep the game going while they're still developing Overwatch 2, because they don't want to abandon Overwatch 1, because that's abandoning the community. They want to play the next game, right?
To what extent would replayability in the single-player in-game content would suit Overwatch 2? It's the inclusion of something you and the team have considered, because this is the topic of in-game. Because when you introduce PvE content, it eventually comes to an end. You know, there's going to be that final mission that you get done. So how do you keep people, you know, continuously playing the same content? Now, we've talked about the hero missions where you take your character, you level it, and you're going to get points. You put the points in your talents and your whatever ability you want to expand, and that's going to be a system, the cooperative mode, where you level your character, I level my character, and we can do the content. And his response was, we're definitely going to explore what in-game means for hero missions. We have many experienced developers who created in-game content for World of Warcraft and Diablo on our team, because they mentioned earlier about how they had doubled their team size. This is one of the challenges we are very eager to start working on. So they are aware that there has to be something of an in-game content. Normally in games like World of Warcraft and Diablo, it's grinding. It's normally where you grind experience or you grind gear. So it could be something similar with their hero missions.
It'll be interesting to see what endgame means for Overwatch. What kind of content would there be compelling enough to keep you going? It could be cosmetics. Maybe you earn a certain amount of cosmetics only once you've maxed your hero out. Maybe there'll be especially difficult difficulty levels where you have to have reached the maximum hero level in order to progress through those difficulty levels. It'll be interesting, certainly. I really don't know what form endgame will take in hero missions. Whether there's a whole nother tier of hero talents or something once you've maxed out certain heroes. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what form it takes. And at this time, they haven't told us anything about what endgame will even look like. So it can only be speculative at this point.
It's exciting, though. Game development is way more than what we, the players, understand. There's a lot of logistics that go into all of it. And one of the other parts is talking about the release of something, because at some point in time, that these developers and these producers, they have to say, okay, we're going to release this game on December the 20th, 2021. That's just a random date I just decided to say because it's easy to know, because today's December 2021. That's the date that we're going to choose. And this is a reference to, it's difficult to decide when the game is good enough. So what they mention is how what you have to do is you have to set a release date. You have to know when we're going to release it, and then you work to that date.
Blizzard have a very high standard of quality, so it's hard for them to call it done, to call it, yeah, that's good enough, because it could always be better. But at some point you have to say, okay, this is done enough to start polishing and to have an idea of when we'll be finished. And that's the point when they decide when they want to release it. And then once they've decided on that date, that can then dictate how much more they can add and how quickly they can polish and all this kind of stuff before that date. If you don't set a date, if you just keep it ambiguous and you never decide this is when it will be done, you get feature creep. You get things, ooh, maybe we should add this bit, maybe we should add that bit, maybe we should develop this bit a bit more. You get the problem that Star Citizen, for example, is suffering from. That game was supposed to come out originally in 2012. It's still in alpha at this stage. So the fact that they didn't decide on a solid release date has caused the development cycle to be perpetuated for over half a decade now, when it was supposed to come out years ago. So Blizzard are aware of this, and they want to make sure that that doesn't happen with their games. They don't want feature creep to indefinitely extend the development cycle, because not only does it make your fans, the people that actually want to play the game, wait and wait and wait forever, it's also incredibly expensive. The longer you take to develop a game, the more it costs, and the harder it is to get that money back when you finally release the game.
A lot of this interview, a lot of what we were reading, it seems that it was about the characters and the story. But my question for you is, how much do you think about the world of Overwatch? We always talk about the characters. We talked about May and how adorable she is and her character development, but how, everybody thinks she's evil when she kills you in the game. But the world of Overwatch, the interviewer was talking about how they see the world of Overwatch as being optimistic and this utopia of, the future of humanity. And you get the idea that there's these Omnics and the humans, and they're loving each other and they're okay with each other, and that there was a war. I haven't put a lot of thought into the world of Overwatch, but it seems like what they want to do in Overwatch 2 is they're going to say, hey, the world of Overwatch is just as important as the heroes in the world.
I find it fascinating to explore ideas of what the future can be. So I do think about the world of Overwatch and what it means, and the vision that Blizzard have of this future world, right? Because it's not some fantasy land in some imaginary universe. Overwatch is set on Earth.
Right.
In real places, with heroes that have nationalities that we're all familiar with. So I find it especially fascinating how they're exploring the potential future of Earth itself, and I am excited to learn of more of that, right? What it all means, explore all the different aspects of their vision of the future and what it means for humanity and AI and all this kind of stuff, right? I want them to show us, show us their full vision of what they think the future will be like. Of course, being a video game, they can be a lot more inventive and stretch, potential futures into the fantasy area where you've got magical dragons flying everywhere and stuff like that, right? They're not limited by reality. They can stretch things into the more sci-fi realm, but it's still fascinating, and I do like comparing people's idea of the future to what actually happens, because you've got things like the original Star Trek had their communicators, right, that looked very much like 30 years later you got clamshell phones, which basically got their idea from Star Trek with the communicators. So some people's visions of the future end up becoming inspiration for our future. So it's certainly fascinating to explore those.
It is exciting. And once again, bless their hearts for sitting down and coming up with the design and the stories. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of man hours to design everything. So again, it's just another layer of the onion. It makes me excited, and I really want to play it. I really want to get in there and enjoy it. People ask me all the time, are you going to play Overwatch 2? And I'm like, absolutely. I know, I'll play Overwatch 2. Sounds exciting.
Overwatch 2 may be a big expansion on the universe, but they've hinted at a lot more to come. They were talking about how before you can walk, you have to crawl, right? And before you run, you have to walk. So crawl is Overwatch 1. Walk is Overwatch 2. So they're alluding in the future to maybe something bigger, something better, something more expansive. Whether that's a third game later down the line in 5 years or so, or whether that's a TV series or movie franchise or whatever it will be, they have big plans for the Overwatch universe. They're not going to leave it at Overwatch 2. They're going to keep it going. They're going to expand and make more and more out of this universe. So it's not just about being excited for Overwatch 2. It's about being excited for the whole Overwatch universe and what we're going to learn about it in the future and how we're going to interact with it and all this kind of stuff, right? They're not going to stop. They're going to keep it going for as long as people are interested in learning more and playing more and all this kind of stuff. So it sounds like they're very well invested in this idea of Overwatch, and they want to keep it going year after year after year, potentially well into the future.
I foresee Netflix TV show. I see 9 to 12 episodes. Let's get an animated, CG animated with Blizzard's crew. They'll make 12 episodes of an epic TV show on Netflix. The first season ends with a cliffhanger, and there's a will they, won't they renew it? Yeah, I like it. I like that idea. That's a great idea, Tree Boy. I like that. So we need to contact somebody. Let them know. TV show, Netflix, 12 episodes, maybe a love interest. Possibly will they, won't they, by the end of the first season, will they, won't they get together? We'll need to think about that. We'll have to put some thinking into that. Tree Boy, it is an honor and a pleasure to carry on a discussion about Overwatch and the future of Overwatch with you. It's almost Christmas, so Merry Christmas to you and yours.
And have a great Christmas too, boss. I'm sure you will.
You too. I'm going to try. I just try not to overeat. Number one, don't overeat. I've already given myself my gifts. I've already given out my gifts. So I'm definitely going to be here on Christmas, probably playing Overwatch, because that's what I do. I play competitive Overwatch.
Sounds great.
There you go. Well, take it easy, man. And I'll see you at the same time next week.
Yeah, definitely. See you soon.
See you, man. Take it easy.
Bye. So that was episode 5 of Overgrove. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback for us, please feel free to leave it below. Or if you want to, come by either of our streams and we can chat about it there and then. I will leave the link down below to the Edge article. It is a paid magazine, so if you wish to read it yourself, you will have to buy the article, but there's loads of stuff in the magazine, not just Overwatch 2, but plenty of other stuff too. I will also be leaving our social media links, Twitch, YouTube and Twitter down there as well as normal, and the episode will be available on SoundCloud as well, where the link will be also in the description. Where else? Anyway, I hope you will have a lovely Christmas, and I'll see you all next week for more Overgrove. Have a good one.